Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 6th day of January 2020. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show once again. First graphic, hazardous weather graphic showing no warnings out, but a winter weather advisory and wind chill advisory out for the eastern Arctic coast and the eastern North Slope, southeastern Brooks Range tonight through tomorrow for winds gusting 50 miles an hour, creating blowing snow, reducing visibility to less than a half mile at times, along with wind chill temperatures to 55 degrees below zero. Again, that's through tonight and through most of the day tomorrow. Down to the south there, underneath the Valdez red dot, that's a wind chill advisory for Thompson Pass. Winds gusting 50 miles an hour there. Look for wind chills to 45 degrees below zero through tonight for tonight through Friday morning, and also a wind chill advisory this evening or through the night tonight there for the northern panhandle along Klondike Highway, Lynn Canal area, right on up towards Skagway. Wind chills of 40 below zero with winds 50 to 60 miles an hour in gusts. In fact, today Eldred Rock had a peak wind gust of 67 miles per hour out of the north. Anyway, you can see some mid and high level clouds dropping down into the northern panhandle under northerly flow. They're coming around big upper level ridge over the Russian Far East and up along the over the Arctic, and a weakening system that brought moving west northwest just north of Shimia. That was the low pressure area yesterday that brought the strong winds into eastern Aleutian areas, and another one pulling northward there just south of Adak, spreading about a third of an inch of precipitation into the Adak-Atka area. Much lighter amounts, just about nothing at all. In fact, remnants of the first front right across the Pribilofs, very light scattered amounts of precipitation with that is about all that's left now. And the next one coming up isn't much stronger as well. Otherwise, you see kind of a cloudy day there, Kodiak Island, with a few showers around, and still enough lines there over the northern panhandle keep those north winds pretty gusty there. As I mentioned, 67 miles an hour in Eldred Rock there, Lynn Canal. And Seward seeing winds out of the north gusting to 41 miles per hour today, and even stronger gusts at Potato Point there in Prince William Sound, but much lighter for Valdez, and then wind gusting about 50 miles an hour in Thompson Pass today. And then out west, Nikolsky, enough gradient there, had peak wind gusts about 50 miles an hour and 40 to 50 mile an hour winds coming into the central Aleutians on the north side of that next front, pulling northward there. Otherwise, high pressure over the north slope, light winds there, but still pretty gusty, about 40 mile an hour gusts for the Barter Island, down from yesterday's speeds. But that'll continue through tonight and through most of the day tomorrow as well, but much lighter winds are in store for the central and western Arctic coastal areas. Otherwise, cold and dry across much of interior Alaska today. Pretty cold on some of the overnight lows. Sitting in the valley, squinting it down to minus 38. And I believe Willow is about 31 or 32 below zero at one of the reporting locations around Willow there. And probably another night like that tonight. Maybe not quite as low tonight as what we saw. Maybe a few clouds coming in, a little bit of a pickup in the wind as well. And going on to the forecast for tonight, you can see the gradient tightens up across southern and southeast Alaska. And what we had today, more lines a little closely spaced together. And so winds will start to increase once again, especially the outflow winds. Copper River Basin, Copper River Delta, winds will be coming up. It'll stay windy over the panhandle. And maybe a few clouds down to the south, but nothing too significant. It looks like most of the moisture will stay east of the border. Maybe some clouds spilling in west side of the Canadian border there. Snow blowing, snow drifting. Again, winter weather advisories, wind chill advisories, eastern Arctic coast, eastern North Slope, southeastern Brooks Range area. But dry right off the coastline there, VFR with that offshore flow. Remnants of that first front, still maybe some rain or snow showers for the Pribilofs with very light precipitation amounts. The stronger one farther to the west across Adak and Atka, that low now pulling west-northwestward, weakening. And then another one just on the edge of the chart there. And moving on to tomorrow, you can see that pulls a little farther to the north, but now it's making a more of an easterly push. And then low pressure drops back south of the western Aleutians. So that's going to keep it unsettled across much of the Aleutians, especially Adak, Atka, out to Shimea. Numerous showers as periods of light rain at times. Winds not all that strong. Windier for the Fox Islands there, north side of that occluded front. Maybe a few showers, but could see winds gusting 35, maybe as high as 50 miles an hour. Breezy but dry for the Pribilofs, and just tightening gradient across all the forecast area. Northern Bering Sea, increasing winds, east-northeast winds on the increase, as well as Manduska Valley once again. See a little bit of an increase in the winds. Copper River Basin, storm force gusts blowing out of the Copper River Delta, North Gulf Coast, and be another windy day there for Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, northern inside channels. But the southern areas, maybe some moisture moving onto the coastline there in the form of maybe some light rain or snow, or light snow, and but amounts not expected to be too heavy. Otherwise, maybe some flurries and continued blowing snow for the eastern Arctic coast there. And but stronger winds developing, like for Delta Junction in toward maybe Nanana, Healy, and those areas out of the east-northeast. Same thing for the northern Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island areas. Moving on to the day Saturday, that low center south of the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula pushes east-northeastward, and the warm front spreads warmer air and moisture. Big increase in the moisture coming into the Panhandle. Northern areas will be increasing snow. In fact, probably starting out as snow even down toward Prince of Wales Island, but changing over to rain with the warmer air coming in. Then a mixture of precipitation. Could be some freezing rain in there through the central part of the state. And but you can see pretty tight gradient there, so winds will be back up through Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, and the eastern North Gulf Coast. Copper River Basin, windier conditions, and areas of blowing snow with those increase in the winds across much of the central interior. Big increase in the winds for the southwest coast, northern Bering Sea, maybe gusts 35, 50 miles an hour or so. Tooksuk Bay could see gusts 55 miles an hour. Same thing for the Pribilofs, maybe up to 40 miles an hour to the east there for St. Paul, St. George, but dry conditions, that dry air are pulling west-southwestward. But you'll pick up a few rain and snow showers along the Alaska Peninsula. Increasing chance of snow for southern Cook Inlet, Kamishak, Kachemak Bay, maybe up into Resurrection Bay, Sewards. And some of that might slip on up into western Prince William Sound. Could see some light snow for Portage, or actually Whittier, maybe Portage, with an increase in the clouds elsewhere, but still cold and dry and windier over the interior. And another trough might clip the eastern Arctic coast late Saturday afternoon, more likely in the evening, with some flurries and gusty winds. Otherwise, periods of rain out over the Aleutians. And for the lows, Friday morning, anywhere from 32 or 25 to 45 below, about sums it up for the eastern interior. 5 above to 5 below out along the west coast, from Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, all the way down to Cape Newenham. But upper 20s for the Pribilofs, lows above freezing, all of the Aleutians, in fact, mid to upper 30s. For the western Alaska Peninsula all the way up to Shimea and Attu, and below 0 to 10 below for Bristol Bay, lows in the mid-20s Kodiak Island, and 5 to 25 below South Central Alaska, but Seward probably staying in the lower teens, and lows again approaching 40 below 0 for the Copper River Basin, but you probably won't see that 45 below you saw at Gulkana this morning. But still a little below 0 up around Skagway and the Panhandle. Otherwise, 5 to 15 for your lows. And then the highs for Friday afternoon, mid-teens, northern Panhandle to mid-20s down to the south, maybe approaching 30 along the central coast there. High staying well below 0, Copper River Basin, and over the eastern interior all the way up to the Arctic coast, and then edging up above 0 there for Unalakleet, and 0 to 5 above for the southwest interior, near 10 out along the coast, near freezing for the Pribilofs. And lower 40s now showing up over all of the Aleutians, all the way to possibly False Pass and Sandpoint, looking at a high near 40, but 31 for Kodiak. That'll fall to 29 for your low Saturday morning for Kodiak State Airport, and down near 0 again for the northern Panhandle, otherwise milder to the south near 20. 35 to 45 below Copper River Basin, 25 to 45 below eastern northeast interior again, mid-minus 20s to near 30 to 35 below for the north slope and the Arctic coast. St. Lawrence Island is shade below zero, right around zero out along the southwest coast, and mid-30s for the Aleutians, followed by highs below zero north and west of the Alaska Range, 5 to 15 south central Alaska, warmer in the Panhandle.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Bering Sea into interior Alaska down in the Gulf, and all the Panhandle. Marginal VFR creeping northward there, or actually from east to west, across central southern Kodiak Island, Alaska Peninsula marginal, Pribilof's marginal, Unalaska Island marginal VFR, Unmac Island VFR, a narrow band of IFR there across Atka Island, another band out over Kamchatka, or I'm sorry, not Kamchatka, Atka Island in Kiska, and then up over the eastern Arctic coast, some IFR, otherwise marginal VFR for the north slope and all the Arctic coast, and some lower conditions over toward Eagle, some IFR possibly showing up along the Yukon River there. And then for the afternoon, that IFR area slips southward into the eastern Copper River Basin, Wrangell Mountain areas. IFR a little more extensive there on the eastern Arctic coast and eastern north slope. Otherwise, the interior pretty good. Northern central Bering Sea VFR. VFR right down to the Pribilofs, and you pick up the marginal VFR with a little bit IFR over the central Aleutians. And some IFR now sliding into Prince of Wales Island area with marginal VFR, possibly as far north as Sitka, and but staying VFR over the central and northern Panhandle. Saturday morning, starting to see some changes show up, increasing IFR now, northern Gulf of Alaska, southern Prince William Sound, possibly over toward the Kenai Peninsula on the east side, marginal VFR into the Barren Islands and northern Kodiak Island, and just a little bit of marginal VFR left over the Wrangell Mountains, IFR eastern north slope, and IFR on the increase over the southern Panhandle with marginal VFR spreading northward to about Juneau and possibly to Elfin Cove. Southern Bering Sea, marginal VFR, some IFR, just grazing the central Aleutians. Northern Bering, pretty good, all the way up into the Chukchi Sea, good VFR. Flying, or for the afternoon, same thing. Marginal VFR, eastern Arctic coast, eastern north slope. Otherwise, VFR, a good portion of the Bering Sea, actually southward now to the north shores of the Fox Islands. IFR, Atka, Adak, out towards Shimia. And band of IFR now just south of Prince William Sound over toward Cape St. Elias to Yakutat, and marginal VFR all of the Panhandle with some lingering IFR toward Prince of Wales Island. And for passes, Anatuvik, possible marginal VFR on the north entrance, otherwise VFR, and again, Adigan, same thing. North side will see the lowest conditions, better to the south, staying VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR, as well as rainy. VFR for the next couple of days for Windy and Isabel. Mentasta increasing marginal VFR northern entrance, but to the southwest staying VFR. Tanita stays VFR. Portage, another VFR day coming up. And Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing level at the surface across the Alaska Peninsula near St. George Island, just east of Kodiak and south of the Queen Charlotte's, 2,000 feet up across Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula. And icing, not a whole lot, maybe some isolated moderate Reimer mixed icing, just an elevated threat there, Amchitka Island, west of Shimei and Attu. Another batch possibly just south of the Pribilofs, and some increasing moisture brings a threat of some icing to the southern Panhandle. That's about it. So moving on to the jet stream. High pressure there, just west-northwest St. Lawrence Island. Northerly flow back in the picture here, as cold upper lows kind of dig down just east of the border. So 110 knots right out of the north again, picking up north 80 knots across the Kenai Peninsula, northwest 95 off the southern Panhandle, east-southeast 75 blowing across the Pribilofs, and southerly 70 to 80 over the western Aleutians. At 9,000 feet, high pressure again over the Russian Far East. There, so north winds across the western interior, north to northeasterlies up to 50 knots, about 35 knots down toward the southern Kuskokwim Valley, turn east to east-southeast as you head west over the Bering Sea at about 40 to 50 knots, strongest or out toward the Komodorskis, northwest on the increase through the Barren Islands, and that cutting eastward there, just clipping the southern panhandle. 3,000 feet northeast, 55 knots there across southwest interior, light over the eastern interior, except 60 knotters there blowing across Yakutat, and increasing the winds for Cook Inlet, east 60 knots for the eastern Aleutians. Turbulence-wise, moderate chop, mechanical turbulence south and southeast Alaska into northern Cook Inlet, northern Panhandle, Fox Islands.
Howdy, Starfinders. This week we are closer to the sun than at any point in the year. Happy Perihelion Day, one of my favorites. Earth's orbit is slightly oblong, meaning this week we're 3.2 million miles closer to the sun than in July. You can pop outside before sunset to look for Mercury. It's a tough to spot little dot trailing behind the sun. If you miss it, Jupiter and Saturn are out too. We'll reach exact perihelion at 1:52 a.m. on January 4th. But if you're cozy inside at that time, I'm not going to blame you. It's winter in the US. In the northern hemisphere, we are tilted away from the sun at this time of year. We receive less direct sunlight. That's why we have winter now. The seasons are driven by the tilt of the Earth and not the distance from the star. The southern hemisphere, they're having a nice hot summer right now. So wear that sunscreen, y'all, and keep looking up.
Ever been to the beach and noticed litter like plastic bottles or foam takeout containers on the sand? Or maybe you've been to a river or bay where there's a bag or a car tire stuck in the mud on the shore, or a bunch of deflated balloons that say happy birthday floating in the water. All of that junk in the water or on the shoreline is considered marine debris. It's anything solid and man-made in the ocean or Great Lakes that is not supposed to be there. And anything people use every day can become marine debris if they don't dispose of it properly. And I mean anything. The most common items we find when we do shoreline cleanups are plastics. But we also find rubber, cloth, glass, metal, and paper litter. Sometimes the debris is so tiny, like a plastic microbead from your face wash, that you can barely see it in the water. Marine debris is more than just trash in the ocean. Sometimes fishers lose their gear like fishing traps, nets, or fishing line, and it continues to drift through the water, catching animals for a long time. We call that derelict fishing gear, and it's marine debris. Have you ever seen an old boat left behind on a shoreline? Abandoned and derelict vessels are also marine debris. So let's review. Anything we use every day can become marine debris if we don't dispose of it properly or if it goes into the water by accident. Marine debris can be very small or can be very big, and anything in between. But most importantly, marine debris is one of the biggest pollution problems facing the world's oceans and waterways today.
How does marine debris impact the ocean, animals, and me? Would you want to swim in a beach littered with trash? Of course not. And the animals who live in the ocean don't either. The difference is, they don't have a choice. Marine species often get tangled in debris, from fishing nets to six-pack rings. If they get caught, they could get injured or even die. And even if they don't get entangled, many animals mistake plastic debris for food and eat it. This fills their stomach with junk they can't digest. Debris can also damage important habitats, like coral reefs, by breaking or smothering them. Corals serve as the base of the marine ecosystem, and impacts here can be felt all the way to you and me. Plus, plastics have harmful chemicals in them. Fish eat plastic, we eat fish. The question is, can those chemicals harm us? Marine debris also hurts the economy. It costs a lot of money to clean up, and people don't want to go to dirty beaches. Boats and ships could run into large pieces of debris too, or get their propellers tangled. We need the ocean and everything in it, and the ocean needs us to keep it free of debris. can we do about marine debris?
A lot of the trash that's in our ocean is plastic.
And that marine debris is hurting our environment, economy, and health.
The problem will only get worse.
Unless we change the way we consume and dispose of products. There are solutions,
And together, we can prevent litter from ending up in the ocean. Some people might say,
well, I'm just one person, so I can't make a difference.
but that's just not true.
If each person who creates trash, and that's just about everyone, took action, it would add up to a whole lot of change.
So what can we do?
Well, the ultimate solution is prevention. And we need to keep that as our highest priority.
We can reduce, reuse, and recycle to keep debris out of the ocean in the first place.
You can bring your own shopping bag, drink out of a reusable bottle, and participate in things like a shoreline cleanup.
Join a group cleaning up the beach, or grab some friends and clean up your street. It's easy.
Be more conscious of how many disposable plastic items you're using. And if you do,
Where are you putting it? In the trash can? Whoops. Or in the recycling bin?
so here's the challenge. The next time you finish using a throwaway item, a bag, a bottle, or utensil, answer the question, where is this going? Because ultimately, when you throw stuff away, there really is no away. It has to go somewhere.
So keep asking yourself this important question.
How will you keep your trash from becoming marine debris?
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at yesterday's sea ice analysis and comparing it to the change for today, you see that northern Bering Sea there makes an advance westward there, and kind of a little bit to the northwest there, Bristol Bay. And that's going to continue for the next few days, probably through Sunday, before it southerly winds break in first of next week. And moving on to coastal water forecasts. Variable winds 20 knots there for the south coast. North coast, east at 30 knots, seas up to 8 feet. North 30 knots, gust 45. Northern inner channel, Stevens Passage, north 20, gust 35 knots. Light northwest breeze at 10 knots with just 2-foot seas for Clarence Strait. Those pick up to 25 knots from the southeast, and seas build to 13 feet for Clarence Strait on Saturday. Good gales along the outer coastline. For the south coast, east-southeast 40 knots, seas a shade over 20 feet, and east 40 knots on the north coast, the seas a little under 20 feet. Gale warnings, Lincoln Isle, Glacier Bay, northern inner channels, north winds 35 knots, Stevens Passage, high-end small craft advisories, north winds 30 knots, 5-foot seas. Prince William Sound has a gale warning out tomorrow, northeast winds 35 knots with 7-foot seas. Northeast 25 for the North Gulf Coast, storm force gust of 50 knots out of the Copper River Delta. Seas right around 8 feet. Northwest 30 for the Barren Islands. Northeast 30 knots, Southern Cook Inlet, Kamishak Bay, seas 8 to 9 feet. Northern Cook Inlet just north at 15. Northern Cook Inlet on Saturday, brisk wind advisories, northeast 25 knots. Northeast 40 knots for Southern Cook Inlet and 11-foot seas. East winds 45 knots, Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands, and east-northeast winds from the North Gulf Coast at 40 knots with 20-foot seas. Small craft advisories, Prince William Sound, east winds 25 knots. East side of Kodiak Island, northwest at 20, seas just under 10 feet. Chillicothe Strait, though, northeast at 30 knots. East-northeast 30 knots for the Alaska Peninsula. Bristol Bay looking at northeast winds at 20 knots. Those will increase to gale force northeasterly winds for Bristol Bay on Saturday. Also for the Alaska Peninsula, gale warnings, northeast 35 to 40 knots, and that 40-knot northeast winds extends from Castle Cape right up across Kodiak Island. And for Unalaska Island tomorrow, east winds 30 to 35 knots, northeast 30 to 35, Woonmak Island, Adak and Atka, east-southeast 20 to 30 knots. Emchitka Island, southeast at 30, Kiska to Shimian, northeast winds 30 knots. And for Saturday, northeast winds 30 knots there from Shimia all the way toward Adak, Adak and Atka, northeast, north to northeast. Gale warnings, 35-knot winds, seas 15 to 18 feet. Gale warnings for the Fox Islands, north to northeast winds 35 to 40 knots with 14 to 17-foot seas. Brisk wind advisories for the southwest coast, northeast 25 knots. Small craft advisories for the Pribilofs, east at 30 knots. St. Matthew Island, northeast at 30. Brisk wind advisory, St. Lawrence Island and Norton Sound, northeast winds 25 to 30 knots. Gale warnings for Norton Sound and St. Lawrence Island on Saturday, northeast, sustained 35 knots. Gale warnings also there for the Kuskokwim Bay and southwest coast area, up to 35 knots. Yukon Delta coast north at 30. 40 knot northerly, St. Matthew Island and the Pribilof seas at 14 feet. Eastern Arctic coast, brisk wind advisories tomorrow over toward Barter Island at Demarcation Point, west winds at 30 knots. Those subside back to 15 knots from the north for the central and west side, and then north 25 knots from Cape Thompson to Wales. And for Saturday, brisk wind advisories continue from Barter Island at Demarcation Point, west winds at 30 knots. Otherwise, north to northwest at 15 knots for the central and east central coast. West coast, or western Arctic coast, northeast at 20, and then 30 knot winds. Brisk wind advisories from Cape Beaufort all the way down to Wales. Direction north to northeast at 30 knots. For tonight, high pressure in over the north slope, and that's going to keep the gusty winds going on the eastern Arctic coast. There was some blowing and drifting snow, lower visibilities. And gradient starting to tighten up again over the southeast interior and the panhandle a little bit there. Low pressure, weak low pressure in the Gulf. And a weak front brings some rain into the Adak-Atka area. Showers all the way back to Shimia. A few isolated showers for the eastern Aleutians Alaska Peninsula. And for tomorrow, increasing winds across all of interior Alaska south of the Brooks Range, including the northern panhandle. Breezy and milder for the Aleutians to the Alaska Peninsula. And then for Saturday, moisture slides northward with warmer air into the panhandle and eventually into the North Gulf Coast.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.